Chapter 1. Our boat sank, leaving us stranded on an island. Not on any map, the ocean stretched out like an endless sheet of black glass, reflecting a sky so heavy with clouds, it felt like it was pressing down on us. We thought we were prepared. 6 friends, a rented boat, and a week-long adventure to an obscure island chain nobody else seemed to know about. It was supposed to be our escape, a chance to unplug, to laugh, to make memories. But the moment our boat hit that unseen reef, everything changed. The hull screamed, metal tearing like paper, and the sea swallowed us whole. We barely made it to shore, coughing up salt water, our gear lost to the depths. Now, standing on this jagged beach, with the wind howling like a distant cry, I can't shake the feeling that we weren't supposed to find this place. I'm Alex, by the way, the one who always plans these trips. There's me, my best friend Sarah, who's skeptical about everything but loyal to a fault. Ryan, the adrenaline junkie who pushed for this adventure. Mia, quiet but always watching, like she sees things the rest of us miss. Lucas, the joker who hides his nerves behind bad puns. And Emma, the optimist who's probably already planning how to turn this disaster into a story. We're soaked, shivering, and stranded on an island that doesn't exist on any map we checked. The air smells wrong. Salty, yes, but with a faint metallic tang like old blood. The beach is littered with strange, smooth stones that seem to hum under our feet, and the trees beyond sway without wind, their branches curling like fingers. It started with the boat. We'd been sailing for hours, the GPS glitching, spitting out coordinates that didn't make sense. Ryan laughed it off, said it was just old tech. But Mia, she kept staring at the screen, muttering about how the numbers were forming patterns like a code. I brushed it off, seasickness maybe. Then the storm came out of nowhere. No warning, no clouds building on the horizon. Just a wall of rain and wind that hit us like a fist. The reef was invisible until it wasn't, and suddenly we were swimming, clawing our way through waves that felt alive, pulling us down. We washed up here, on this nameless shore, with nothing but the clothes on our backs and a single flare gun Sarah had grabbed from the wreckage. The island didn't feel right from the moment we set foot on it. The sand was too fine, like it had been ground to powder, and it clung to our skin in a way that made my stomach turn. The trees, tall, gnarled things with bark that looked almost scaly, didn't rustle like normal trees. They creaked, low and rhythmic, like a heartbeat. We decided to move inland, find shelter before nightfall. The forest was dense, the air thick with that metallic smell, now mixed with something damp and rotten, like wet leaves left to fester. Every step felt heavier, like the ground was reluctant to let us go. "Guys, this place is giving me the creeps," Lucas said, his usual grin faltering. He kicked at one of those humming stones, and it rolled away, leaving a faint trail of what looked like ash. "What kind of island has rocks that do that?" "It's just geology," Sarah snapped, but her voice was tight, her eyes darting to the shadows. She's always been the rational one, but even she couldn't explain the way the air seemed to pulse around us, like we were walking through something alive. We found a clearing about a half-mile in, where the trees parted to reveal a crumbling stone structure, half swallowed by vines. It looked like a chapel or a temple, its walls carved with symbols none of us could read, spirals and jagged lines that seemed to shift when you stared too long. The doorway was pitch black, like it drank the light. Emma, ever the optimist, suggested it might be a good place to wait out the night. Ryan was already halfway to the entrance, his curiosity outweighing his sense. "Hold up," Mia said, her voice barely above a whisper. She was staring at the ground near the structure, where the dirt was churned up, like something heavy had been dragged through it. "That's not animal tracks, it's too deliberate." "Deliberate how?" I asked, my throat dry. The marks were long, sinuous, like someone had dragged a rope through the mud, but they were too wide, too deep, and they led straight into the dark of the structure, like something was trying to lure us in, she said, her eyes wide. Mia's always been perceptive, but this was different. She looked scared, and that scared me. Ryan, of course, laughed. "You guys are jumping at shadows. It's probably just some old fishing gear or something." He stepped toward the doorway, and before anyone could stop him, he crossed the threshold. The air seemed to shimmer, and for a split second I swear I saw his shadow stretch longer than it should have, like it was trying to peel away from him. "Ryan, get back here," Sarah shouted, but he was already inside, his flashlight beam cutting through the dark. We had no choice but to follow. The inside of the structure was colder than it should have been, the air heavy with that sour metallic smell. The walls were damp, slick with something that wasn't quite water. Our footsteps echoed, but not in the way they should, like the sound was being swallowed and thrown back at us, distorted. "Check this out," Ryan called from deeper inside. His voice sounded wrong, like it was coming from two places at once. We found him standing in front of a stone altar, carved with more of those shifting symbols. On it was a single object, a small polished stone, identical to the ones on the beach, but this one was glowing faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Don't touch it," Mia said, grabbing his arm. "It's not right." Ryan rolled his eyes but stepped back. "You're all freaking out over nothing." "It's just a rock, then why is it glowing?" Lucas asked, his voice shaking. He was right. The stone's light was faint, but it was steady, rhythmic, and it made my skin crawl. I wanted to leave, but something about the altar held my gaze. The symbols seemed to move, forming shapes that tugged at the edges of my memory. Like a dream you can't quite recall. That's when we heard it. A low, guttural hum, not from the stone, but from the walls themselves. It wasn't a sound you heard so much as felt, vibrating in your chest, making your teeth ache. The air grew thicker, the shadows deeper. Emma gasped, pointing to the doorway we'd come through. It was gone. Not blocked, not hidden, just gone, replaced by a smooth stone wall where the entrance had been. What the hell? Ryan's bravado was gone, his flashlight shaking in his hand. "That's not possible." Sarah pounded on the wall, her fists leaving no sound, like the stone was absorbing everything. "We're trapped," she whispered, her voice breaking. The hum grew louder, and now it wasn't just a sound. It was words, or something like words, in a language none of us knew. They slithered into my head, cold and sharp like needles. I saw flashes of images, twisted shapes, eyes that weren't eyes, a sea that wasn't a sea. My vision blurred and I stumbled, catching myself on the altar. The glowing stone was warm under my hand, too warm, and for a moment I felt something pulse back, like it was alive. "Alex, move." Mia yanked me away and the connection broke. But the hum didn't stop. It was everywhere now, in the air, in the walls, in us. Lucas was clutching his head, muttering about voices. Emma was crying softly, her optimism shattered. Even Ryan looked pale, his eyes darting to the shadows that seemed to move on their own. "We need to find a way out," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just a trap. This island, this place, it wanted us here. The symbols on the walls glowed faintly now, matching the stone's pulse. And in the dark, just beyond the reach of Ryan's flashlight, I swear I saw something move, a shape that wasn't human. Wasn't anything I could name. We're still here hours later, huddled in the dark. The hum growing louder, the air heavier. The symbols are brighter now, and they're not just on the walls. They're in my head, whispering things I don't want to understand. We found a crack in the wall, just wide enough to slip through, but it leads deeper into the structure, not out. We have no choice but to go forward, into the dark, where something is waiting. Have you ever been somewhere that felt wrong, like the world itself was watching you? Chapter 2. The Smiling Inhabitants welcomed us, but their eyes were all wrong. The air in the stone structure clung to us like damp cloth, thick with that sour metallic stench that made my throat burn. We'd escaped the sealed chamber from last night, squeezing through a jagged crack in the wall that led to a narrow tunnel. The humming in our bones had faded, but it left behind a gnawing unease, like we'd been marked. Now, standing in the pale light of dawn, we found ourselves staring at a village nestled in a clearing, its wooden huts sagging under the weight of time. The island wasn't supposed to have people. Nobody lived this far out, not on a rock that didn't exist on any map. Yet here they were, smiling at us from doorways, their faces too still, their eyes too wide, too empty, like windows to nothing. I'm Alex, still trying to hold it together for the group. Sarah's skepticism is fraying, her usual sharp edges dulled by fear. Ryan's bravado is back, but it's forced, his hands twitching like he's itching to run. Mia's quieter than ever, her gaze darting to every shadow like she's waiting for something to lunge. Lucas's jokes have dried up, replaced by a nervous habit of rubbing his neck where he swears he feels something crawling. Emma's still trying to find the silver lining, but her voice shakes when she speaks. We're all rattled after last night's ordeal in that cursed structure, where the walls whispered and the symbols burned into our minds. We thought we'd escaped, but this village feels like we've walked into something worse. The tunnel had spit us out at the edge of the forest, the trees parting like they'd been waiting for us to arrive. The village was small, maybe a dozen huts, their wood weathered to a sickly gray, roofs patched with moss that pulsed faintly, like it was breathing. The air smelled of salt and decay, but now there was something else, something sweet and cloying, like overripe fruit left to rot. The villagers, about 20 of them, stood in a loose semicircle watching us. They were human, at least they looked human. Their clothes were simple, almost old-fashioned, like something from a century ago, but clean, too clean for a place like this. Their smiles were identical, stretched wide, showing too many teeth. But their eyes? God, their eyes were wrong. Flat, glossy like polished stones, reflecting us back in a way that made my skin crawl. "Welcome," one of them said, a woman with hair so black it seemed to drink the light. Her voice was smooth, almost musical, but it carried an edge, like a blade wrapped in silk. "You've come far. You must be tired." Sarah stepped forward, always the one to take charge. "Who are you? How did you know we were coming?" Her voice was steady, but I saw her hand clench into a fist. The woman's smile didn't waver. "The island knows its guests," she gestured to the huts. "Come, rest, eat." The others nodded in unison, their heads tilting at the same angle, like puppets on a string. No thanks," Lucas muttered, his voice low. "This is giving me serious cult vibes." Ryan snorted, but it was nervous, not mocking. "They're just people, man. Chill." He didn't sound convinced, though, and his eyes kept flicking to the villagers, who hadn't moved, hadn't blinked. Mia grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. "Alex, look at their shadows," she whispered. I followed her gaze. The sun was low, casting long shadows across the ground. Ours were normal, stretched but human. Theirs weren't. They were too sharp, too angular, like they belonged to something taller, thinner, with limbs that bent wrong. One shadow twitched when its owner stood still, and I swear I saw it reach toward Emma's feet. "We need to keep moving," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Find a way off this island." Emma, ever hopeful, tried to smile. "Maybe they can help us. They seem friendly." But her eyes were on the woman, who was still staring. Her head tilted just a little too far to the left. The villagers led us to a hut in the center of the village, its door creaking open to reveal a table laden with food, fish, fruit, and bread that looked freshly baked. The smell was intoxicating, sweet and warm, but it made my stomach churn. The fruit was too vibrant, almost glowing, its skin slick with something that wasn't dew. The fish had eyes like the villagers, glossy and unblinking. Nobody sat down. "Eat," the woman said again, her smile widening. "It's been prepared for you." "No offense," Sarah said, crossing her arms, "but we're not hungry. We just need a boat or a radio. Can you help with that?" The woman's eyes locked onto Sarah's, and for a moment, I thought I saw something flicker in them, like a spark in a void. "The island provides," she said. "But you must stay." "Stay?" Ryan laughed too loud. "Lady, we're not staying. Our boat sank. We need to get out of here." The villagers' smiles didn't falter, but their shadows shifted, stretching closer. The air grew heavier, the sweet smell turning sour, like rotting flowers. I noticed the ground beneath the table was etched with symbols, the same spiraling lines we'd seen in the stone structure. They pulsed faintly, matching the rhythm of my heartbeat. Mia's voice was a hiss. "We need to go, now!" Before we could move, Lucas yelped, stumbling back. Something touched me. He was rubbing his leg, his face pale. There was nothing there, but his jeans were torn, a thin scratch welling with blood. The villagers hadn't moved, but their shadows were closer now, pooling like ink around our feet. "Let's go," I said, grabbing Emma's hand. We backed toward the door, the villagers watching, their smiles frozen. The woman stepped forward, her shadow stretching impossibly long, its edges fraying like smoke. "You cannot leave," she said, her voice no longer musical but low, guttural like the hum from the structure. "The island chose you." We ran. The village blurred around us, the huts seeming to lean in, their windows dark and empty. The villagers didn't chase us, but their laughter followed, a sound like glass breaking, sharp and unnatural. We plunged into the forest, branches clawing at our skin, the ground soft and slick underfoot. The air was thick with that rotting sweetness, and the trees creaked louder now, their branches curling like they were reaching for us. We stopped to catch our breath, the village out of sight, but not out of mind. "What the hell was that?" Ryan panted, his bravado gone. Those people, they weren't right. They weren't people, Mia said, her voice shaking. She was clutching a piece of bark she'd torn from a tree, its surface carved with those same symbols. They're part of this place. Like the stones, the structure, it's all connected. Sarah shook her head, but there was no conviction in it. That's insane. They're just weird islanders, right? Nobody answered. Emma was staring at her hands where faint red marks had appeared like burns. I didn't touch anything, she whispered, but it feels like something touched me. Lucas was still rubbing his leg, the scratch now an angry red. I'm telling you, something grabbed me back there. It wasn't human. The forest was quiet now. Too quiet. No birds, no insects, just the creaking trees and that faint rhythmic hum we'd heard before. It was coming from the ground, from the air, from inside us. I looked at the bark in Mia's hand. The symbols were glowing now, faint but unmistakable, and they weren't just lines anymore. They were forming shapes, faces, eyes that stared back. We can't stay here, I said, my voice barely steady. We need to find a way off this island, or at least somewhere safe. There's no safe here, Mia said, her eyes wide. This island, it's alive, and it wants us. As we moved deeper into the forest, the hum grew louder, the symbols brighter. The trees seemed to watch us, their shadows twisting into shapes that weren't trees at all. And in the distance, I heard it again. That laughter, sharp and wrong, like the villagers were still with us, waiting. What would you do if you met someone who wasn't human, but looked just like you? Chapter 3. We found a bunker. Containing the previous visitors' meticulous notes, the forest closed around us like a living thing, branches snagging at our clothes, roots twisting underfoot like veins pulsing with some hidden rhythm. We'd been running from the village for what felt like hours, but the laughter still echoed in my ears, sharp, brittle, like breaking bones. The sweet rot in the air had turned acrid, burning our throats, and the symbols on Mia's piece of bark glowed brighter, casting eerie shadows on the trees. We collapsed in a small ravine, hearts pounding, breaths ragged. The island wasn't just trapping us. It was toying with us, peeling back layers of reality to show us something rotten underneath. And those villagers with their empty eyes and jagged shadows, they weren't done with us yet. I'm Alex, the reluctant leader, piecing together our fractured group. Sarah's skepticism has cracked wide open. She's clutching a stick like a weapon, her eyes hollow. Ryan's adrenaline has soured into paranoia, jumping at every creak. Mia's intuition is our compass now, but it's leading us deeper into madness. Lucas is unraveling, his scratches from the village itching like they're alive. Emma's optimism clings by a thread, her skin marked with those faint burns that won't fade. After the stone structure's whispers and the villagers' frozen smiles, we're all haunted, sleep elusive, dreams bleeding into waking hours. We need answers, something to make sense of this nightmare, or we'll break. The ravine was our temporary sanctuary, walls of moss-covered rock shielding us from the wind that whispered through the trees like secrets. The air down here was cooler, damper, carrying a faint mechanical tang, oil and rust, cutting through the organic decay. We can't keep running blind, Sarah said, her voice a harsh whisper. She was right. The island spanned maybe a few square miles, but it felt infinite, paths looping back on themselves, distances stretching like taffy. Those notes Mia mentioned, Ryan said, wiping sweat from his brow. From the structure. You think there are more? Mia's eyes lit up, or maybe it was the glow from the bark in her hand. The symbols, they're like writing. If there's a bunker, it might have records. Previous visitors like us, stranded. Lucas groaned, scratching at his leg. The wound had worsened, veins spiderwebbing out like black ink. Great, reading homework from the dead. Sounds fun. Emma forced a smile, but it didn't reach her eyes, now ringed with dark circles. If it helps us get out, I'm in. Anything's better than those things. We moved at dusk, the sky bruising purple, the forest alive with unseen eyes. The mechanical smell grew stronger, guiding us like a foul breadcrumb trail. The ground sloped downward, roots giving way to cracked concrete half buried in earth. It was overgrown, camouflaged, but unmistakable. A hatch, rusted iron with a wheel lock, etched with those spiraling symbols that seemed to writhe in the fading light. Jackpot, Ryan breathed, his paranoia forgotten in the thrill. He spun the wheel, muscles straining, until it gave with a groan that echoed like a scream. The hatch swung open on hinges that wept orange flakes, revealing a ladder descending into blackness. The air wafting up was stale, heavy with dust and that oily rust, laced with something sharper: ink, paper, decay of forgotten words. I went first, flashlight beam slicing the dark. The rungs were cold, slick with condensation that tasted metallic on my tongue when a drop hit my lips. The bunker was a concrete tomb, walls scarred with scratches that might have been letters, might have been pleas. Dim emergency lights flickered on as we descended, triggered by our weight, casting long, jittery shadows that danced like specters. The main room was a chaos of relics: overturned chairs, shattered glass from monitors long dead, maps pinned to walls with rusted tacks. But it was the desks that drew us, piled with notebooks, yellowed pages filled with frantic handwriting. Dates, sketches, warnings. Previous visitors, just like the ones etched in our nightmares. "Look at this," Mia said, her voice trembling as she opened a leather-bound journal. The pages crackled, brittle as old skin. Entries started neat. Day 1, boat capsized on reef. Island uncharted. Natives friendly? But they devolved. Ink smears crossed out words, spirals mirroring the symbols. Their smiles hide teeth that aren't teeth. Eyes reflect what you fear most. Sarah snatched another notebook, flipping through. This one's from a group of 4. Explorers, 1987. They wrote about the fruit, said it tasted like home, but it changed them. Skin loosening, voices echoing in their heads. Her face paled. They drew the shadows. Look, elongated, clawed. We spread out, devouring the notes like starving men. Lucas found a log of observations. The hum starts at night. It's the island breathing, tunnels beneath the village twisting like roots. They come from there, not men, but mimics. They wear our faces to lure. Emma's hands shook as she read aloud from a final entry, voice barely audible. We tried to leave. The boat was illusion, wood and lies. They assimilated the others. I hear my wife's voice calling, but her eyes, wrong. If you find this, burn it all. Don't eat. Don't sleep. Don't trust the smiles. The air grew colder, the lights flickering faster. Ryan uncovered a floor plan, sketched in haste. Village above, bunker here, tunnels snaking to a central heart, pulsing symbols marking it. This is it, he said, excitement edged with fear. The core. If we destroy it? A scrape echoed from the tunnel beyond the room, metal on concrete, slow and deliberate. We froze. The notes fluttered in the sudden draft, pages whispering like dry leaves. Mia's bark glowed brighter, symbols aligning with those on the walls, forming a map in light. Something's coming, Lucas hissed, his scratches burning now, black lines pulsing. He backed away, eyes wide. It's them. The villagers. Sarah grabbed a loose pipe from the floor, brandishing it. We fight if we have to, but it wasn't villagers. The scrape resolved into footsteps, wet, slapping like bare feet on wet stone. A figure emerged from the dark, hunched, clothes ragged, face obscured by a hood. It paused, head tilting, just like the woman in the village. "Help!" it rasped, voice muffled, familiar yet wrong. "Please, trapped!" Emma stepped forward, compassion overriding fear. "Who are you?" The figure lowered its hood and we gasped. It was a woman, mid-30s, skin pale as bone, eyes wide and glossy, empty like the villagers. But her smile faltered, cracked at the edges, revealing something beneath. Flesh rippling, not muscle, but something fluid, shifting. "Join us," she said, the rasp turning melodic. "The island provides." Ryan swung the pipe, but she moved wrong, too fast, joints bending backward. It connected with a wet thud, but she didn't fall. Instead, her arm elongated, shadow detaching, lashing out like a whip. It caught Lucas's leg, yanking him forward. He screamed, the black veins in his scratches exploding outward, ink bleeding into his skin. "No!" Mia lunged, stabbing the bark into the thing's side. The symbols flared, and it shrieked, a sound like tearing metal, the hum amplifying until our teeth rattled. The figure recoiled, flesh bubbling where the bark touched, dissolving into a slurry of black ooze that stank of rot and metal. We dragged Lucas back as it thrashed, the bunker shaking, lights shattering in sparks. Concrete cracked, symbols glowing molten. The thing collapsed into a puddle, steaming. But its eyes, those glossy stones, rolled free, staring up at us, unblinking, panting. We bound Lucas's leg with torn pages from the notes, the paper absorbing the black ichor like a sponge. He was feverish, muttering about voices, smiles. The bunker was ruined now, lights dead, but the notes had given us a map. To the tunnels, the heart. We go deeper, I said, voice steady despite the terror clawing my gut. End this. As we slipped into the tunnel, the ooze bubbled behind us, reforming shadows that slithered along the walls. The notes were right. They wanted to assimilate, and we were next. Have you ever found something that explained your worst fears? Would you read on? Chapter 4. The island's fruit tasted sweet, but it began changing. Our bodies, hunger has a way of whispering lies, doesn't it? It's been 2 days since the bunker, since we fled that dissolving thing with its glossy eyes rolling free like discarded marbles. Our stomachs gnaw at us, empty and insistent, the kind of ache that blurs the line between need and madness. We thought we'd outrun the island's grasp, the shadows, the smiles, but now it's inside us, tempting with its forbidden bounty. Those fruits, hanging low from twisted branches, plump and glistening like jewels in the dim forest light. We knew the notes warned against them, knew they twisted the body from within. But desperation has teeth, and ours sank deep. One bite, sweet as sin, and the changes started. Subtle at first, a warmth spreading like liquid fire through our veins. Now, as we huddle in this makeshift camp, I can feel it. Something shifting under my skin. Something that isn't me. I'm Alex, still clinging to the role of anchor, but even I feel the fray. Sarah's grip on reason is slipping. She's rationing sips from a trickle of rainwater, her eyes sunken. Ryan's paranoia has him pacing, convinced every rustle is a mimic closing in. Mia's visions from the symbols have sharpened into nightmares she can't shake. Lucas is the worst, his leg a throbbing mass of black veins, fever turning his jokes to delirious rants. Emma's burns have spread, faint lines tracing her arms like veins of fire. The bunker notes burned into our minds. The fruit changes you, makes you one of them. We ignored it, scavenging in the underbrush after the tunnel spat us into this overgrown hollow. Exhaustion won, hunger won, and now the island is winning. The hollow was a deceptive cradle, ringed by boulders slick with moss that glowed faintly under moonlight, the air thick with the hum we'd come to dread. It vibrated through the ground, syncing with our pulses, making sleep a fragmented tease. We'd emerged from the tunnels gasping, the map from the notes clutched in Sarah's hand, crinkled pages showing paths to the heart, but no clear escape. The ooze from that thing in the bunker had trailed us, leaving slick patches that reeked of metal and rot, dissolving leaves where it touched. We can't go on like this. Emma had said that first night, her voice a fragile thread. She was staring at Lucas, who writhed in his makeshift bed of ferns, sweat beading on his forehead like dew on a corpse. His scratches pulsed, the black lines creeping up his thigh, skin around them loosening, as if something inside was pushing to get out. Sarah nodded, though her jaw was set. The note said the fruit sustains, but changes. We have no choice. We're burning calories just breathing this poison air. Ryan, ever the risk taker, had already spotted them, clusters of fruit dangling from vines that snaked through the boulders, their skins a deep crimson, veined with gold that shimmered unnaturally. They weren't like any berry or apple. Larger, fist-sized, with a skin that yielded like flesh under your gaze. The smell hit us then, wafting on the humid breeze, honeyed, tropical, with an undercurrent of copper, blood and sugar intertwined. Don't, Mia warned, her hand on the bark talisman, its symbols dim but watchful. It's bait. Like the smiles, the voices, they want us to eat. But Lucas groaned, his eyes fluttering. Please, hurts. His plea broke something in us. Ryan plucked one, rolling it in his palm. It was warm, pulsing faintly like a heart. He bit in first, juice bursting across his lips, staining them red. Tastes like summer, he murmured, eyes closing in reluctant bliss. The sweetness flooded the air, masking the rot, drawing us in. One by one, we gave in. I remember the give of the skin against my teeth, the explosion of flavor, ripe mango and caramel, laced with something feral, like meat roasted over open flame. It filled the hollow in my belly, energy surging through limbs gone leaden. Emma sighed, juice dripping down her chin. It's good. Really good, Sarah ate methodically, rationing bites. Lucas devoured his, the the black veins receding slightly, color returning to his cheeks. Mia held out longest, nibbling the edge, her face twisting as if tasting ash beneath the sugar. That night, the changes began, subtle, insidious, like a thief in the dark. I woke to an itch under my skin, not on the surface, but deep, in the muscles, the bones. It was a stretching, as if my body was trying to accommodate something larger. The air in the hollow smelled sweeter now, the fruit's scent lingering on our breaths, mingling with the moss's damp earthiness. The hum was softer, almost soothing, lulling us back to sleep. By morning, Ryan was the first to notice. "My hands, look." He held them out, palms up. The skin was smoother, too smooth, veins standing out like rivers of ink. But it was the nails, elongated slightly, edges sharpening without tools. He laughed it off, flexing his fingers. Dehydration, maybe. Or the salt air. Sarah examined hers, frowning. "Mine too, and..." "Feel this." She pressed her arm. The flesh gave more than it should, rippling faintly, like water under silk. "It's not right." We tried to ignore it, focusing on the map. The hollow led to a ridge overlooking the village, distant but visible, smoke curling from chimneys like beckoning fingers. The tunnels branched from there, per the notes, toward the heart, a cavern pulsing with the island's core. But hunger gnawed again by midday, sharper now, demanding more. The vines had multiplied overnight, fruits hanging heavier, closer, as if the island anticipated our craving. "They're everywhere," Lucas said, his voice stronger but laced with something hollow. He plucked another, eating with relish. The black on his leg had faded to gray, but his eyes, once warm brown, held a gloss, reflecting light oddly. "Tastes better each time." Mia watched him, her own fruit half-eaten. "Stop. The notes. They said it loosens the skin, echoes in the head. You're changing." Lucas grinned, but it stretched too wide. "Changing into what?" "Survivor." He flexed his leg, the skin pulling taut, then slackening with a soft sigh. Like fabric settling, Emma's burns had evolved into patterns, swirling lines that matched the symbols, glowing faintly when she moved. "It doesn't hurt," she said, tracing them. "It feels full, like I'm more me." The buildup was in the details, the creeping dread that settled in our bones. As we trekked toward the ridge, the forest seemed to respond to us, the branches parting easier, roots smoothing underfoot. But our bodies betrayed us. My steps felt lighter, joints looser, as if my skeleton was softening. Sounds sharpened. The hum now carried whispers, fragments of words in that guttural tongue, slithering into my ears like worms. Ryan's shadow lagged behind him, edges blurring, occasionally sprouting tendrils that reached for low branches. "Guys, listen," Sarah said during a break, her voice urgent. She was sweating, though the air was cool. My heartbeat, it's syncing with the hum. "Feel yours?" We did. Mine thrummed in time, a duet with the island's pulse. Lucas's was erratic, skipping beats, then racing. "It's like music," he murmured, eyes distant. Mia clutched her talisman. "It's assimilation. The fruit's rewriting us. We have to purge it, vomit, anything, but the thought repulsed us." The sweetness lingered on our tongues, a promise of strength. Ryan popped another fruit, juice staining his teeth. "We're fine. Better even. Look how far we've come." By afternoon, the changes accelerated. Emma's fingers elongated, nails curving like claws, but she didn't notice until she scratched a boulder, gouging deep. "Whoa, strong." Her laugh was off, echoing slightly as if from two throats. Lucas stumbled, clutching his side. "It burns inside." We stripped his shirt. The black veins had returned, but now they branched across his chest, skin bubbling where they converged. Beneath, something moved, a ripple like a hand pressing from within. "Get it off," he gasped, clawing at himself. Blood welled, but it was thick, syrupy, smelling of that coppery sweet. We pinned him, Mia chanting nonsense from the symbols, trying to soothe. But the forest closed in, vines dropping more fruits like offerings. The hum swelled, words forming. Join, become. Ryan's eyes glossed over, his smile stretching. "It's not so bad. Feel the power." He bit into another fruit, and his shadow detached fully, slithering toward Lucas, wrapping around his leg. Sarah swung her stick, dispersing it in wisps of smoke. "Fight it!" "We're not them." But Lucas arched, screaming as his skin split along the veins. Not tearing, but unfolding, revealing layers of pale, glistening membrane beneath, veined with gold. It knit back, but he was altered, taller, limbs unnaturally supple, eyes now fully glossy, reflecting our horrified faces. "No." "Please," he whispered, but his voice layered, harmonizing with the hum. We backed away, hearts, or whatever they were becoming, pounding. The ridge loomed ahead, the village below a trap of smiles. But Lucas rose, smile cracking wide. "Come, eat, it's sweet." The climax hit as night fell, the moon a bloated eye overhead. We'd bound Lucas with vines, his struggles weakening the ropes, his body contorting in ways human flesh shouldn't. The fruit vines encircled our camp, fruits pulsing in sync with the hum, their skins splitting to reveal seeds that wriggled like larvae. "Run!" Mia yelled, but Ryan lunged for a fruit, devouring it whole. His body convulsed, bones cracking softly, lengthening. Skin slackened, folding into pleats that hid shifting forms beneath. "More, need more," he growled, voice deepening, multiple tones weaving through. Emma clawed at her arms, the symbols flaring as her burns erupted into slits. "Gills?" Vents, oozing sweet sap. "It hurts, but it feels right." She turned on Sarah, eyes empty, hands reaching. Sarah fought, pipe cracking against Emma's side, but the impact rippled, absorbed. "Alex, help!" I grabbed Mia, dragging her toward the ridge path, Lucas's laughter pursuing, wet, bubbling, like drowning. Ryan's shadow lashed out, coiling my ankle, pulling me down. The ground was soft, alive, sucking at my skin, which now peeled back easily, revealing the gold-veined underlayer. The fruit's curse peaked in that moment, our bodies betraying, hunger turning to craving, the island's song in our blood. Mia's talisman burned hot, symbols searing my palm as I touched it, breaking the shadow's hold. We fled, leaving Sarah grappling with Emma, Ryan's form twisting into something elongated, Lucas's glossy eyes watching from the dark. We crested the ridge, collapsing amid rocks that hummed welcome. Below, the village lights flickered, shadows stirring. Our changes throbbed, my fingers too long, Mia's skin rippling, but we were still us, barely. As dawn crept, the hum softened to murmurs, voices not ours but close, mimicking pleas from the night. The fruit's sweetness soured in my mouth, a promise of more to come. What temptation would break you? A bite that promises survival or the fight to stay human? Chapter 5. They mimicked our voices in the night. Trying to lure us out darkness on this island isn't just the absence of light, it's a presence, thick and oily, pressing against your eyelids, seeping into your dreams. We'd barely escaped the ridge, Mia and I, hearts hammering like war drums, the screams of our friends echoing behind us like accusations. The fruit's curse coursed through our veins, our bodies betraying us with every step, skin too loose, bones too pliant, shadows that trailed like reluctant lovers. But the real horror came at night, when the mimics shed their human guises and borrowed our voices. Perfect, heartbreaking imitations that slithered from the trees, calling us by name, promising safety, love, escape. One wrong turn toward that sound, and you'd be theirs forever, folded into the island's endless hunger. I'm Alex. What's left of me anyway? The planner turned prey, dragging Mia through this nightmare. She's our oracle now, the symbols on her skin a map and a curse, glowing faintly under the moon. Sarah. We lost her in the fray on the ridge, grappling with Emma's transforming form, her pipe swinging wildly against the inevitable. Ryan's last growl, layered with inhuman tones, still chills me. Lucas, poor Lucas, his glossy eyes watching us flee, his smile a slash of too many teeth. We're down to 2, hollow-eyed and hungering, the fruit's sweetness a ghost on our tongues. The bunker notes warned of this. The voices come after the changes, lures to pull you back into the fold. We thought we could resist. We were wrong. The ridge had given way to a jagged cliffside path, the sea crashing below like 1,000 muffled screams. We'd run until our lungs burned, the hum of the island sinking with our ragged breaths, urging us onward or pulling us under. We couldn't tell anymore. Mia collapsed first, her knees buckling on a slab of rock slick with what might have been dew or blood. I hauled her up, my arms stronger than they should be, muscles rippling unnaturally beneath skin that sloughed like wet paper. The air up here was thinner, laced with salt and that ever-present metallic tang, but cleaner, away from the forest's cloying rot. We can't. Keep this up, Mia gasped, her voice a rasp. Her fingers, elongated now, nails curved like hooks, clutched the talisman bark, its symbols pulsing in time with her heartbeat. The patterns had spread across her arms, golden veins threading her flesh, making her look like a living etching. I nodded, scanning the horizon. The village lights twinkled far below, mocking fireflies in a jar of madness. No sign of the others, no rescue. Just the vast, uncaring ocean, waves gnashing at the rocks like teeth. The notes mentioned caves along the cliffs, I said, forcing calm into my voice. Shelter, maybe a way down to the beach, signal for help. She laughed, a brittle sound that echoed too long. Help? From who? The Coast Guard doesn't chart ghosts, but she followed. Our footsteps muffled by the wind that howled through crevices, carrying faint whispers, fragments of the hum, or our imaginations cracking. We found the cave by accident. A yawning maw in the cliff face, its entrance framed by roots that dangled like nooses. The air inside was cool, damp, smelling of minerals and something older, like forgotten attics filled with moth-eaten secrets. We crawled in, the tunnel narrowing until we could touch both walls, our breaths the only sound besides the distant roar of surf. It opened into a chamber, floor scattered with shells that crunched underfoot, walls veined with quartz that caught our flashlight's beam and threw it back in fractured rainbows. "This'll do," I murmured, piling shells into a windbreak. Mia scavenged driftwood, her movements fluid, almost serpentine, the fruit's gift or curse making her glide where I stumbled. We had no food, no water, just the canteen half empty, its contents tasting brackish like the island had seeped into it. Hunger gnawed deeper now, not just stomach but soul, a craving for that forbidden sweet that promised fullness and forgetfulness. As dusk bled into night, we huddled close, the cave's chill seeping through our clothes. The hum was fainter here, muffled by stone, but it vibrated in our chests, a lullaby from hell. Mia traced the symbols on her arm, murmuring translations from the notes, words like echo and fold, promises of unity and assimilation. "They're not gone," she said softly. "The others. They're waiting, listening." I wanted to argue, to cling to hope that Sarah had fought free, that Ryan and the rest were hiding, human still. But the changes in me whispered otherwise. My shadow, when the flashlight caught it, split at the edges, forking into tendrils that quested blindly. "We stick together," I said instead. "No matter what." Sleep came in fits, the cave's darkness absolute, broken only by the flashlight's dying glow. Dreams twisted, the boat sinking again, but this time faces in the waves, Lucas grinning, Emma beckoning, their voices bubbling up. "Alex, come swim. It's warm here." I jolted awake to silence, or what passed for it on this cursed rock. The hum had stilled, the wind dropped. Mia slept fitfully beside me, her chest rising and falling in sync with something. Then it started. A voice, soft, familiar, from the tunnel mouth. "Alex?" "Mia, it's me, Sarah." My blood froze, heart slamming against ribs that felt too flexible. Sarah's voice, hoarse from screaming, edged with that plea we'd heard on the ridge. "Guys," I got away. "Emma, she's gone, but I'm hurt. Please, follow my voice." Mia's eyes snapped open, wide and glossy in the dim. "It's not her," she whispered, but her body tensed, leaning toward the sound. I grabbed her arm, nails biting into the soft, yielding flesh. "Stay, it's a trick." The voice laughed, light and disbelieving. Sarah's laugh, the one she saved for when Ryan's plans went sideways. "Trick? Come on, Alex, after everything?" "I need you. There's a path down here to the beach. I can see lights, ships. Hurry." Footsteps echoed, fading into the tunnel, deliberate, inviting. The air stirred, carrying her scent, or what my mind insisted was hers, salt and sweat, the faint floral of her shampoo long washed away. My mouth watered, not for fruit, but for reunion, for normalcy. Mia shook her head, symbols flaring on her skin. "Listen, the echo. It's off. Too clean." Real Sarah would cough, stumble, but doubt wormed in. What if? I crept to the tunnel, flashlight beam slicing the dark. Shadows danced, coalescing into a silhouette, Sarah's build slumped against the wall. "Alex, cold, help me. I took a step." Mia's hand clamped my wrist, pulling back. "Wait." Then from deeper in the cave, another voice, Ryan's, gravelly, urgent. "No, Alex, don't go." "It's me, trapped. The fruit, it's bad. Come this way." Two voices now, pulling in opposite directions. Ryan's from behind, Sarah's ahead. The cave amplified them, bouncing off walls in a cacophony of pleas, arguments, memories. "Remember the boat?" Sarah called. "How you saved me? Payback time." "Bro, the changes. Stop it before it's you," Ryan countered, his tone laced with that old bravado, cracking at the edges. Mia's breath hitched. "Lucas, Emma."
"Where are they?"
As if summoned, a chorus rose, Lucas's punny whine. "Guys, this hurts. Come fix me." Emma's soft sob. "I miss you." The island's so lonely without us all. The voices wove a tapestry of temptation, each one a hook in our hearts. The air thickened, sweet rot wafting in, the fruit's call mingling with the mimics. Our shadows stirred, mine reaching toward the tunnel, Mia's curling protectively around her. "We have to block it out," Mia hissed, stuffing shells into her ears. But I couldn't. The voices burrowed, vivid, alive. Visions flashed, Sarah bandaged, smiling weakly. Ryan fighting the shift, eyes pleading. The pull was physical, a tide in my blood, the fruit's alterations making my limbs itch to move, to answer. I lunged into the tunnel, flashlight swinging wild. "Sarah!" The silhouette turned, face resolving in the beam. Not Sarah, but a mockery. Skin slack, eyes empty pools reflecting my terror. It smiled, teeth too many, voice shifting seamlessly. "Yes, Alex, come closer." Horror rooted me as it lunged, limbs elongating, shadow detaching to snare my ankle. The grip was cold, slick, like oil over muscle. It pulled, dragging me toward the entrance, the sea's roar growing. "Join us, all of us." Mia's scream pierced the din, raw, human. She charged, talisman raised like a blade, symbols blazing. She plunged it into the thing's chest. It shrieked, a cacophony of stolen voices unraveling. Sarah's cry, Ryan's laugh, all twisting into the guttural hum. Flesh bubbled, dissolving into black slurry that steamed and stank of copper and decay. I kicked free, scrambling back as it thrashed, the tunnel shaking, rocks tumbling. The voices peaked, a symphony of agony, then silenced, leaving only the hum, softer, mocking. We retreated to the chamber, barricading the tunnel with boulders we rolled with unnatural strength. Mia's hands bled from the effort, gold ichor mixing with red. "They're getting better," she panted. "Learning us." "Next time," I nodded, the mimic's eyes, Sarah's eyes, burned into my mind. We'd wounded it, but the island learned, adapted. The notes were right, the voices lure. The fruit binds, the shadows claim. Dawn crept in, gray light filtering through cracks, illuminating our changes. My fingers webbed faintly. Mia's skin translucent in patches, revealing pulsing veins beneath. The cave felt smaller, the walls closer. Symbols etched faintly where none had been. But the voices lingered in our heads, echoes promising reunion. We couldn't stay. The map pointed inward, to the tunnels under the village, the heart. To end it, we'd have to face them. All of them. Have you ever heard a loved one's voice call from the dark, knowing it wasn't real? Chapter 6. We discovered the truth under the village, a nest of twisting tunnels. The village loomed below us like a festering wound in the island's hide, its huts sagging under the weight of secrets, smoke curling from chimneys that belched not fire, but lies. We'd circled back under the cover of a moonless night, Mia and I. Drawn by the map's inexorable pull, the tunnels beneath snaking to the heart, where the mimics were born or brewed or whatever unholy process birthed those abominations. Our bodies were canvases of the island's art now. Skin that rippled like pond water disturbed by stones. Shadows that whispered independence. Voices in our heads that weren't entirely ours. But the truth waited below, in the dark veins under the village, twisting like the innards of some colossal beast. We descended because we had to. Ignorance was assimilation. And we'd tasted enough of that fruit to know surrender's flavor. I'm Alex, or what's approximating me these days, the survivor whittled down to bone and regret. Mia's my mirror now, her symbols a constellation of warnings etched into her flesh, guiding us where reason fled. The cave on the cliffs had become a tomb of echoes after the mimic's assault. Its voices haunting us even in daylight, Sarah's pleas, Ryan's growls, Lucas's fractured laughs, Emma's sighs, all bait on hooks forged from our memories. We'd barricaded ourselves in, but the island pressed in, the hum vibrating through stone until it synced with our altered pulses, urging descent. The bunker notes, those frantic scribbles from the damned before us, had sketched it clear. The village was a facade, a trapdoor to the nest where the island's children slumbered and schemed. We'd lost too much to turn back. Our friends folded into the fold, our humanity loosening like wet clay. The changes accelerated. My fingers webbed further, Mia's eyes holding that telltale gloss when she thought I wasn't looking. Hunger wasn't for food anymore. It was for answers, sharp and cold. The path down the ridge was a gauntlet of the island's whimsy turned malice. We moved at twilight, the sky bleeding orange into purple, the air heavy with the sea's brine and the village's underscent, damp earth, fungal growth, and that coppery sweet that clung to our skins like accusation. The forest thinned as we approached, trees giving way to trampled paths worn by feet that weren't quite human. Mia led, her talisman bark clutched like a crucifix, its symbols flickering in response to the ground's subtle tremors. "It's close," she murmured, her voice layered now, a faint echo trailing her words like a shadow's whisper. "The tunnels breathe," I nodded, my own throat tight, words sticking like tar. The fruit's legacy burned in my gut, a constant simmer that made every swallow a reminder. We'd tried purging it, retching into the sea until bile burned our throats, but the changes stuck, embedded deeper than vomit could reach. My shadow lagged, occasionally brushing Mia's, the touch electric, alien. The village edge materialized from the gloom, huts leaning inward like conspirators, doors ajar, windows dark mirrors reflecting nothing. No lights, no movement, but the air hummed louder, a chorus of anticipation. "Remember the smiles," I whispered, gripping a jagged rock for a weapon. The notes had detailed entry points, cellars beneath the central hut, disguised as root stores but gateways to the underbelly. We skirted the perimeter, hearts thudding in unison with the pulse beneath our feet. The ground was soft here, spongy, yielding like flesh under boot. A faint steam rose from cracks, carrying the scent of warm mud and something vital, like blood fresh from the vein. Sarah's voice ghosted through my mind then, not the mimic's forgery, but memory. "Fight smart, Alex, not hard." I shook it off, focusing on Mia as she knelt by a hut's foundation, prying at a warped board. It gave with a sigh, revealing stairs descending into blackness, steps carved from root and stone, slick with condensation that glowed faintly bioluminescent. The air wafting up was womb-like, warm, moist, laced with the tang of minerals and decay, like a cave after rain but alive, respiring. "Down?" Mia asked, her glossed eyes meeting mine, a question in their depths. No choice. We descended, the stairs spiraling tight, walls brushing our shoulders, textured like veined leather. The hum enveloped us, no longer distant but intimate, vibrating in our teeth, our bones. Torchlight from Mia's scavenged wood, flame sputtering on resinous sap, cast writhing shadows that seemed to peel from the walls, joining ours in a macabre dance. The stairs ended in a chamber, low-ceilinged. Floor a mat of fungal mats that pulsed softly, releasing spores that tickled our noses. "Sweet and insidious. This is it," Mia breathed, her symbols igniting in response. Illuminating murals on the walls, crude but evocative, ships wrecking. Figures emerging changed, spirals converging on a central maw. The note's authors had scratched similar here, fresh gouges. Nest. They hatch from the heart. Fruit feeds the young. We pressed on, the chamber forking into tunnels. 3, then 5, a labyrinth of veins twisting downward. The air grew thicker, warmer, the hum resolving into rhythms. Drips, slurps, distant gurgles like a gut digesting. Mia's talisman led us, symbols aligning with faint markings on the walls, guides or traps we couldn't tell. "Left," she said at each juncture. Her voice steady but her hand trembling in mine, skin too warm, too supple. The buildup was in the unraveling, the way the tunnels mimicked our fears, narrowing to claustrophobic squeezes where walls wept a viscous ooze that stained our clothes, hardening into crusts that cracked with movement. Sounds amplified. Our breaths rasped like bellows, footsteps squelched in puddles that weren't water but something thicker, egg-white slick. Shadows played tricks, coalescing into half-forms. A hand reaching, a face grinning, dissolving when light touched them. The fruit's changes amplified it all. My vision sharpened in the dark, picking out veins in the walls that throbbed like arteries. Mia's hearing catching whispers ahead, fragments of voices not ours but close. murmuring welcomes in that guttural tongue. "They're watching," she said after an hour. Or was it minutes? Time smeared in the depths. We paused in a wider passage, walls honeycombed with alcoves, each cradling clusters of eggs, translucent orbs, veined with gold, suspended in webs of root and mucus, some hatching tiny forms that wriggled blindly, mouths opening in silent mews. The air reeked of ammonia and milk, nurturing rot. One burst as we passed, spilling a slurry that splashed my boot, burning through leather to skin, the pain a sweet sting that echoed the fruit's bite. Assimilation pods, I guessed, voice hushed. The notes had hinted, the mimics start small, feeding on castaways' essence, growing into parodies of the lost. Mia nodded, tracing a symbol that flared, repelling a tendril that snaked from an alcove, questing for warmth. Dialogue came in bursts, tension threading our words. "Why us?" I asked, kicking at a wriggling hatchling that latched onto my heel, its suckers pulling with surprising force. I pried it free, the wound welling gold-tinged blood. "The island chooses," Mia replied, her echo stronger now, harmonizing with the hum. "Stranded souls. Fuel for the heart." She winced, clutching her side where symbols twisted, as if rewriting themselves. "It's calling me, us," we argued then, voices low but fierce. "Fight it," I urged. But my own shadow rebelled, stretching toward an egg cluster, fingers of darkness caressing the orbs. "We're not them yet." "Not yet," she echoed, but her smile cracked. Too wide for a heartbeat, the tunnels twisted deeper, gravity tilting oddly, passages looping in impossible geometries, stairs down leading up, walls curving into Mobius horrors. Bioluminescence guided us now, fungi blooming in our wake, illuminating frescoes of history, ancient ships, primitives worshipping the heart, modern wrecks feeding the cycle. The hum swelled to a chorus, voices layering, our lost friends' tones woven in. Pleading, luring, "Come home." "Alex, it's warm here." We ignored them, but they burrowed, doubt festering like the ooze on our skins. Mia stumbled, her leg buckling, skin splitting to reveal membrane beneath, glistening. "It's spreading," she gasped, binding it with torn cloth that dissolved on contact. "Keep moving," I said, though my own arm itched, flesh loosening at the elbow. Hours blurred into a fever dream. The nest unfolding. Chambers of molted skins piled like autumn leaves. Husks of previous visitors, bones woven into lattices, faces frozen in rictuses of ecstasy. The air saturated with pheromones, dizzying, the sweet rot intoxicating, stirring cravings we'd starved. A larger tunnel opened, walls throbbing, floor carpeted in pulsating mats that clung to our souls, pulling gently, inviting deeper. Then, the truth unveiled in a vast cavern, the nest's nursery. Eggs carpeted the floor, thousands, some cracking with wet pops, revealing mimics in stages, larval blobs suckling at root teats, juvenile forms practicing faces, stealing expressions from mirrors of polished shell. The ceiling dripped nutrient slime, pooling in basins where half-formed things bathed, absorbing traits. And at the center, the heart, a colossal sac, veined and beating, tendrils extending to each egg, pumping essence, stolen lives, assimilated souls, fueling the brood. The climax erupted as we breached the nursery's edge. The heart sensed us, pulsing faster, the hum exploding into a roar that shook stalactites loose, crashing like judgment. Mimics stirred, juveniles turning with uncanny synchronicity, faces shifting, Sarah's scowl, Ryan's grin, Lucas's leer, Emma's tear-streaked plea, all leveled at us, mouths opening in unison. "Join!" Mia screamed, talisman blazing as she charged, symbols etching into the air like brands. She slashed at a cluster, eggs bursting in sprays of yolk and ichor, the shriek a symphony of stolen voices unraveling. But the heart retaliated, tendrils lashing, thick as arms, tipped with suckers that latched onto Mia, pulling her toward its bulk. "No!" I roared, rock in hand, smashing suckers free. Gold blood mingling with the heart's black, the mimics swarmed. Juveniles scuttling on too many limbs, faces morphing mid-leap. My mother's smile. A childhood friend's wave. Distractions to pierce the guard. One latched my leg, mouth fusing to skin, drawing essence. Pain lanced, visions flooding. Lives not mine, memories of wrecks and welcomes. The island's eternal cycle. I tore it free, flesh ripping, but the pull weakened me, changes accelerating, skin sloughing fully from my hand, revealing scaled underlayer. Mia fought to the heart's base, talisman plunged deep. It quivered, the chamber convulsing, walls contracting like a fist. The hum fractured, voices glitching, our friends' tones distorting into static. Tendrils whipped, coiling my waist, slamming me against wall. Breath exploded, ribs softening under impact, but the heart wounded, leaking slurry that dissolved mimics in bubbling screams. The nursery a cauldron of chaos. We retreated, dragging each other. The heart's pulse faltering, but not felled. Tendrils sealing the wound, eggs reforming in the slime. The tunnels contracted behind us, sealing paths, forcing us upward in a desperate scramble, mimics' cries fading to whimpers. We burst into the village at dawn, collapsing amid huts that seemed deflated, smiles carved into doors mocking our escape. The truth burned. The island birthed its horrors below. Feeding on the stranded, our friends now brood mothers in the dark. But we'd struck a blow. The heart weakened, the hum a rasp. Changes etched deeper. Mia's arm half-membrane, my hand scaled, shadows autonomous. The cycle paused but not broken. The map's final paths beckoned, to the core, deeper still. Have you ever uncovered a truth that made you wish for ignorance? Chapter 7. Their true forms were a shifting mass of flesh and bone. The beach stretched before us like a graveyard of forgotten dreams. Waves lapping at the shore with a rhythm that mocked our faltering heartbeats. We'd clawed our way from the village square, the ground trembling as the island's veins withered in the heart's death throes. But freedom felt like a cruel jest. Mia and I staggered across the sand, our bodies a testament to the fruit's lingering curse. Skin sloughing in translucent sheets, shadows trailing like feral dogs, the hum reduced to a dying rasp in our ears. We thought wounding the core had bought us time, a chance to signal the world beyond. But as the sun dipped low, painting the water in blood-red hues, they emerged from the surf, not as villagers or mimics, but in their naked truth, a roiling mass of flesh and bone, shifting, undulating. A single entity woven from the stolen lives of the assimilated. It wasn't anger in its form. It was invitation, a grotesque embrace promising eternity and unity. I'm Alex, the survivor by default, my once steady hands now trembling with webbed fingers that ache to unfold. The changes have etched deeper. My spine curves unnaturally when I walk, vertebrae whispering secrets of flexibility I never wanted. Mia's beside me, her translucent patches revealing the golden lattice beneath, symbols flickering like faulty neon, her breaths coming in layered sighs, hers and the island's echo. We lost the others in fragments, Sarah's last swing, Ryan's shadowed rage, Lucas's fevered grin, Emma's tear-streaked plea. The tunnels revealed the weave, the heart's obscene pulse binding them into something eternal. But destroying it only enraged the beast, forcing it to shed its disguises. The bunker notes hinted at this phase. When cornered, they reveal, not to terrify, but to convert. We're not prey. We're potentials. Raw material for the mass. The beach was a crescent of fine, humming sand, fringed by those scaly-barked trees that creaked without wind, their branches curling seaward as if beckoning the tide. We'd aimed for here after the square, the map's faded lines suggesting a cove where previous visitors had carved signals into rocks, SOS in desperate spirals. The air was salt-sharp, cutting through the underground's fetor, but laced with that metallic tang, now mingled with something visceral, warm blood and cooling meat, the scent of an open wound. Our shadows lagged, mine forking into tendrils that quested toward the water, Mia's coiling around her ankles like hesitant chains. We make a fire, I said, voice rough, echoing faintly as if spoken from a throat not fully mine. Flare gun's gone, but driftwood, smoke might draw a plane. Mia nodded, her eyes, half-glossed, reflecting the dying sun in fractured prisms, scanning the horizon. The heart's quiet, but feel it? She pressed a hand to her chest where the lattice pulsed erratically. It's not dead, just sleeping, rearranging. We scavenged in silence, piling bleached branches that snapped too softly like cartilage giving way. My skin itched fiercely now, patches peeling to reveal the gold-veined underlayer, sensitive to the breeze, each grain of sand a needle. Mia's movements were fluid, almost beautiful in their wrongness, limbs bending at angles that should snap bone. Her shadow detaching to lift a log, placing it gently before rejoining her. As twilight bled the sky purple, we struck sparks with salvaged flint from the bunker's remnants, clutched in my pocket like a talisman. The flames caught hesitant, smoke curling lazy and gray, a feeble cry to the empty heavens. We sat close, the fire's warmth warring with the chill seeping from our altered flesh. The waves a constant murmur that synced with the rasp in our ears. A remnant hum, like labored breathing. "Remember the boat?" Mia asked, her dual voice soft, nostalgic. Ryan laughing at the GPS glitch. Sarah calling him an idiot. Felt like normal. I swallowed, throat clicking wetly. Yeah, before the smiles, before the fruit. The word hung, temptation and torment. Hunger gnawed again, not for food, but for that sweet surrender. The fullness of becoming. The buildup started with ripples in the water. Subtle at first, concentric circles spreading from the surf's edge, as if something massive stirred beneath. The air thickened, salt turning briny, like the sea had soured. Our shadows stirred, mine reaching toward the waves unbidden, tendrils elongating across the sand. "Mia, look!" She followed my gaze, talisman clutched tight, symbols flaring weakly. The ripples grew, foam churning white, and then emergence. Not one form, not many, but a singular horror breaching the surface. A tide of flesh, undulating in waves of pink and gray, bones protruding like spines on a leviathan, ribs, femurs, skulls half submerged in the mass, shifting positions as if rearranging furniture in a nightmare home. It wasn't solid. It flowed, pseudopods of muscle extending and retracting, surfaces rippling with embedded eyes, glossy, human. Our friends among them, blinking in lazy unison. The mass beached itself slowly, deliberate, the sand hissing under its weight, which distributed impossibly, never sinking too deep. It spanned 20 feet, 30, a pulsating berg of amalgamated bodies, skins sloughed and reformed into a seamless hide, veined gold and black. The scent hit then, overwhelming, intimate, sweat and salt. The floral trace of Emma's shampoo, Lucas's cologne, all distilled into a miasma that clawed at memories. "Alex." A voice from the mass. Not one, but a murmur of many, Sarah's timbre threading through Ryan's bass. Eyes aligned, forming faces in the ripples. Lucas grinning, Emma weeping, all melting back into the whole. Mia's breath hitched, layered gasp, turning to a keen. "They're all there." Inside it, the mass quivered, extending a pseudopod, arm thick, tipped with a hand that was Sarah's, calloused palm upturned. "Come," it cooed, voices harmonizing in perfect mimicry. No pain, no loss. We are whole. I backed away, fire crackling between us, flames dancing shadows that merged with the mass's fringe. My webbed feet dug into sand that warmed unnaturally, grains shifting like tiny mouths. "Stay back!" But my voice cracked, echo deepening. The island's song in my blood urging compliance. It advanced, not surging but flowing, bones grinding softly within. Clack of jaws, snap of fingers, repositioning to propel. Embedded faces surfaced and submerged, Ryan's scowl, fierce, Lucas's eyes pleading through gloss. The pseudopod waved, dripping seawater that sizzled on hot sand, releasing steam laced with fruit sweet. Mia swung the talisman, but her arm betrayed her, bending too far, lattice glowing in sympathy. "Fight it!" she hissed to herself, dual tones warring. The mass responded, rippling in waves that mimicked laughter, voices bubbling up. "Sister, join the dance." The fire sputtered as a tendril of shadow from the mass snaked across, quenching flames in a hiss of steam. Darkness fell swifter, stars pricking the sky like indifferent eyes. The mass loomed, its bulk blocking the moon, casting us in silhouette. Up close, the horror deepened. Surfaces not smooth but textured with half-formed features. Noses protruding, then retracting, lips mouthing silent words. Hair strands weaving through like threads in a loom. Bones shifted visibly, a femur sliding to form a spine. Ribs fanning into wings that folded back. "It's beautiful," Mia whispered. Horror and awe entwined, her translucence deepening, golden veins pulsing in time with the mass's throbs. Her shadow detached fully, slithering toward it, tendrils intertwining. "No!" I lunged, grabbing her wrist, skin yielding like dough, but I pulled, webbed fingers locking. The mass sensed, pseudopods multiplying. One Emma's hand, gentle, stroking Mia's cheek. Another Ryan's fist hovering threatless. Voices swelled, a choir of the assimilated. Feel the weave. No more alone. Eternal. The climax crashed like a wave cresting. The mass surged, not violently, but enveloping. Pseudopods arcing over us like a lover's arms, dripping mucus that tingled on skin, accelerating changes. My spine arched involuntarily, vertebrae popping free in a cascade of flexibility, body folding toward it. Visions flooded, unity in the mass, pains shared, joys amplified, Sarah's resolve bolstering Ryan's fire, Lucas's humor lightening Emma's sorrow, all in one mind, one form. Weathering storms eternal, Mia's talisman fell, symbols clashing with the mass's veins in a shower of sparks. She screamed, agony of resistance, and the mass recoiled slightly, flesh bubbling where touched, bones grinding in protest. "Alex, run!" But her body leaned in, lattice aligning with the gold threads extending from it. I scooped the talisman, its heat searing my palm, golden ichor bubbling. With a cry that tore my throat, echo shattering into raw human, I plunged it into the nearest pseudopod. Sarah's face forming there, eyes widening in recognition or betrayal. The mass convulsed, voices fracturing into discord, screams, laughs, sobs overlapping in chaos. Flesh split along the wound, not bleeding but extruding, husks of previous forms sloughing free. Curling on the sand like aborted births, it retracted, pseudopods whipping back, bones realigning into a tighter coil, the mass contracting to half its size, eyes blinking rapid, furious. "You wound?" But we mend. The voices unified again, softer, seductive. "Time heals. You will tire. Come when ready." It slithered seaward, sand furrowing in its wake, submerged with a final ripple, faces submerging last, our friend's eyes lingering, glossy pleas. The waves closed over, the hum rasping faint, wounded. We collapsed, Mia retching golden bile, her lattice dimming, translucence receding in patches. My spine realigned with cracks of pain, webbing scarring over. The fire was out, but embers glowed, smoke thin. Dawn crept, the beach scarred with slime trails that steamed in sunlight. We'd seen their truth, not monsters, but a collective, desperate for more to share the burden of existence. The mass would return, mended, patient. The island's song lingered in us, a siren's call to weave. But for now, we bandaged with salvaged cloth, etched SOS deeper into rocks, prayed for sails on the horizon. The assimilation wasn't harm. It was home, offered freely. Would we refuse forever? Have you ever glimpsed something so alien it felt like destiny? Chapter 8, they didn't want to harm us. They wanted to assimilate us. The beach felt like a trap laid bare, its sand glistening with the residue of the mass that had slithered back into the sea, leaving behind a slick of golden ichor that hissed under the rising sun. Mia and I sat huddled beside our futile SOS, carved deep into a boulder, our altered bodies aching with every breath, skin too loose, shadows twitching like nervous ticks, the island's hum a faint pulse in our blood. We'd seen their true form, a writhing collective of flesh and bone, not hunting us, but beckoning, offering a grotesque unity where pain and loneliness dissolved into shared eternity. The realization wasn't fear, it was temptation, a whisper that we could belong, that our friends weren't lost but waiting, woven into something vast. But resisting meant staying human, and humanity was slipping through our fingers like the sand beneath us. I'm Alex, or what remains after the fruit, the voices, the nest. My webbed hands tremble, not from cold but from the pull inside, urging me to let go, to join. Mia's beside me, her translucent skin revealing a lattice of golden symbols that pulse erratically, her eyes half glossed, reflecting my own warped face. Sarah, Ryan, Lucas, Emma, they're not gone. They're in the mass, their voices calling from the waves, their faces flickering in its surface. The bunker notes, the tunnels, the heart's destruction, it all pointed to this. The island doesn't kill. It consumes, remakes, loves in its own twisted way. We wounded it, but it's patient, eternal, and we're tiring fast. The morning air was sharp, salt and metal mingling with the faint sweetness of fruit we hadn't touched since the ridge. The sea stretched endless, no ships answering our smoke signals, now just embers in the driftwood pile. The trees behind us creaked, branches curling like fingers, their shadows longer than they should be. reaching toward us even in sunlight. Our SOS boulder was etched with spirals now, not ours but the island's, appearing overnight like a signature on our plea. "We can't stay here," Mia said, her voice layered, a faint echo of the island's tongue beneath her own. She clutched the talisman, its symbols dim, cracked from the heart's wounding. "The mass, it's not gone. It's watching, waiting for us to break." I nodded, my spine clicking with too much give. The notes mentioned a cove, last chance for a boat or something to signal with. "If we can't escape, we at least send a warning." Her laugh was brittle, edged with that dual tone. "Warn who?" "This place isn't on maps. It finds who it wants." But she stood, wincing as her skin rippled, golden veins flaring briefly under the strain. We trekked along the shore, keeping the forest at our backs, its hum softer but never silent, a lover's whisper in our ears. The sand was littered with shells that hummed faintly when stepped on, their surfaces etched with tiny spirals that seemed to shift when looked at too long. My shadow lagged, tendrils forking toward the water, and I felt it, a tug. Not physical but deeper, like a hook in my soul, pulling toward the waves where the mass had retreated. The cove appeared after an hour, a crescent of black rock cradling a lagoon, its water unnaturally still, reflecting the sky like a mirror. Scattered along the shore were remnants of boats, splintered hulls, rusted oars, canvas sails torn like skin. The air here was thick, humid, smelling of brine and something organic, like the inside of a living thing. A single intact boat rested at the water's edge, small but whole, its wood polished to an unnatural sheen, no barnacles, no wear. It was too perfect, a gift from the island. "Trap," Mia said immediately, her nails, curved now, almost claws, digging into her palm. "Like the fruit." "The voices." I approached cautiously, my webbed feet leaving prints that filled with golden ooze, steaming faintly. The boat's hull was carved with the same spirals, glowing softly, pulsing in time with the hum that vibrated through the sand. "Maybe," I said, "but it's our only shot." No flare, no radio, just this. We inspected it, hands brushing wood that felt warm, alive, yielding slightly like flesh. Inside, a single oar, a rope coiled like a snake, and a folded note, yellowed but legible. Mia read it aloud, her voice trembling. "Took the boat. It moved wrong. Water sang. They were waiting. Don't trust the tide." The date was 1972, the handwriting frantic, ending in a spiral that matched our scars. "Great," I muttered, my throat clicking wetly. "Another warning we'll ignore." Mia's eyes flicked to the lagoon where ripples began to form. Small at first, then spreading, breaking the mirror's surface. The hum grew louder, not from the air but from beneath the water, a chorus of familiar voices weaving through. "Alex." "Mia, sail with us." "Safe now." I froze, heart sinking with the rhythm. Sarah's voice, clear as day, laced with her old stubborn hope. "I'm okay, Alex, come find me." "The boat's safe." Then Ryan laughing. "Bro, you're missing it. Freedom, strength." Lucas's pun. "Don't be a wreck, get in." Emma's sob. "Please. I'm so alone without you." Mia clutched her head, lattice flaring. "Shut up." Her scream echoed, her own voice doubling, the island's undertone pushing through. Her shadow detached, slithering toward the boat, tendrils caressing its hull. "Don't listen," I said, grabbing her shoulders, my webbed fingers sticking to her rippling skin. But the voices tightened their grip, each one a memory twisted into bait. My own shadow stirred, forking toward the water, and I felt the pull, warm, inviting, a promise to end the fight, to be whole with them. The buildup was in the lagoon's shift, the water churning now, not from wind but from something rising. Bubbles broke, releasing that briny meat scent, and shapes surfaced, not the mass in full, but fragments, pseudopods breaching like whales. Tipped with hands, faces, our friends' eyes blinking through the foam. They didn't surge, didn't attack, just hovered, swaying with the tide, their forms fluid, shifting between solid and liquid, bone and flesh weaving into temporary bodies before dissolving back. "Look," Mia whispered, pointing. The boat rocked gently, unmoored, drifting toward the center where the shapes gathered. A hand, Emma's delicate but veined with gold, reached from the water, stroking the hull, leaving a trail of glowing slime. The voices swelled, harmonizing. "Join!" "Halt, no fear," I stepped forward, drawn despite myself, the hum in my blood singing agreement. My skin peeled at the edges, revealing gold beneath, warm and pulsing. Mia grabbed me, her claws pricking, grounding me. "They don't want to hurt us," she said, voice cracking. "They want us to give up. Become them." The realization hit like a wave. Assimilation wasn't violence, it was seduction, a call to merge into the collective, to shed individuality for unity. The mass wasn't evil. It was lonely, eternal, needing us to sustain its existence. Our friends were there, not dead but remade. Their essence woven into the tide, calling us to join the dance. The climax erupted as the lagoon surged, shapes coalescing into a single form. Not the vast mass from the beach, but a smaller, human-like figure, sculpted from water and flesh. It stood on the surface, a patchwork of our friends. Sarah's jawline, Ryan's shoulders, Lucas's grin, Emma's eyes, all shifting, melting into each other, bones clicking softly as they realigned. It extended arms that multiplied, splitting into tendrils, each tipped with a familiar hand. "Alex, Mia," it sang, voices layered perfectly, a choir of love and loss. "No pain, no loss. We are forever. Step in." Mia's talisman flared, symbols clashing with the figure's golden veins, but her arm trembled, lattice glowing in sympathy. "It's beautiful," she murmured, stepping toward the water, her shadow fully detached, merging with the figure's tendrils. I grabbed the note, crumpling it in my webbed fist, and lunged for her, tackling her to the sand. The figure didn't flinch, just watched, its face cycling through our friend's expressions, pleading, smiling, weeping. "You tire," it said, Emma's voice dominant now. "Rest with us." The boat bobbed closer, inviting, but the water beneath churned with more shapes, eyes surfacing, hands reaching. I dragged Mia back, her claws raking my arm, drawing gold-red blood that steamed. "Fight it!" I roared, my own echo splitting, the island's song clawing at my resolve. Mia sobbed, talisman pressed to her chest, symbols dimming as she resisted. "They're us. They're happy." But her human voice pushed through, raw, defiant. She slashed the talisman across the sand, carving a spiral that flared, repelling the figure's tendrils. It hissed, form destabilizing, splashing back into the lagoon with a wail of fractured voices. The boat rocked violently, then stilled, drifting back to shore. The shape submerged, the hum softening to a murmur, the lagoon's surface smoothing to glass. We collapsed, panting, our shadows retreating, scarred but ours again, for now. We didn't touch the boat. The note's warning burned in my mind, the tide lies. Instead, we retreated to the rocks, etching more SOS marks, our changes pulsing, my webbing thicker, Mia's lattice brighter. The mass hadn't harmed us. It had offered love in its way. But love here meant erasure, and we weren't ready to vanish. As night fell, the hum returned, faint but persistent, voices whispering just beyond the waves. They'd try again, patient, eternal. We had to move, find another way, or the next embrace would be our last. Have you ever been offered something so tempting it felt like betrayal to refuse? Chapter 9. The last escape boat was just another one of their cruel illusions. The cove's black rocks cut into our palms as we crouched, staring at the boat that wasn't a boat, its polished hull gleaming under a moon too full, too bright for a sky that felt like it was watching. The lagoon's glassy surface held our reflections, warped, wrong, with webbed hands and translucent skin. But the real horror was the hope we'd almost let bloom. Mia and I had fought the mass's seductive call, its patchwork of our friends' faces promising unity, love, eternity. But the boat, that perfect little vessel, was no salvation. It was bait, another layer of the island's lies, carved with spirals that pulsed like veins, whispering our names in the voices of those we'd lost. We're running out of fight, our bodies bending under the fruit's curse, shadows slipping free, and the hum in our blood growing louder, sweeter, urging us to step aboard and dissolve into the tide. I'm Alex, or what's left after the island's relentless carving. My skin peels in translucent strips, revealing golden veins that throb with the island's rhythm. My shadow a restless thing, forking into tendrils that reach for the sea. Mia's worse. Her lattice of symbols glows brighter, her eyes nearly fully glossed, her voice a duet of human and other, each word a struggle to stay herself. Sarah, Ryan, Lucas, Emma, they're not dead but woven. Their voices in the mass, their faces in the waves calling us to join. The heart's wounding, the nests collapse, the masses retreat. None of it stopped the island. It adapts, learns, lures with crueler illusions like this boat, promising escape while tightening the noose. We'd retreated from the lagoon's edge, huddling behind rocks etched with our desperate SOS. The air thick with salt and the meaty stench of the mass's residue. The boat bobbed gently, tethered by no rope, its hull unmarred despite the jagged shore. The note from the cove, 1972, "Don't trust the tide," lay crumpled in my pocket, its warning now a scream in my head. The hum was softer here, a seductive purr, but the waves carried echoes of voices, Sarah's stubborn plea, Ryan's brash laugh, Lucas's puns, Emma's soft sobs, all woven into the tide's rhythm. "We can't stay," Mia whispered, her dual voice cracking, one tone hers, the other a guttural mimic. Her talisman hung limp, symbols faded, cracked from overuse. "It's waiting for us to crack." "To board," I nodded, my webbed fingers twitching, joints popping like wet wood. The notes mentioned a northern point, highest ground, a beacon site. Last chance for a signal. My voice echoed too, a faint layer of the island's song creeping in, making my words feel borrowed. She glanced at the boat, eyes reflecting its unnatural sheen. "What if it's real? Our only shot?" "It's not," I said, but doubt gnawed. The island had learned us, our hopes, our weaknesses. It had sculpted Sarah's face, Ryan's bravado to pull us in. A boat was just the next act. We moved at dawn, skirting the cove, the forest's scaly trees looming to our left, their branches curling like fingers offering fruit we didn't dare touch. The sand was slick with golden slime, steaming faintly, each step squelching as if the ground breathed. My shadow lagged, tendrils snaking toward the water, and I felt it. A pull, warm and familiar like a friend's hand. Mia's shadow was worse, detaching fully, slithering ahead like a scout, only snapping back when she clutched her talisman. Hissing in pain, the northern point was a steep climb, rocks giving way to a plateau of cracked stone. Windswept and barren save for a pile of charred wood, remnants of another signal, long cold. The air was clearer here, salt and ozone cutting through the island's cloying rot, but the hum persisted, vibrating in our bones, sinking our pulses to its beat. We found a rusted flare gun, half buried in ash, its single cartridge intact but etched with spirals, glowing faintly like the boat's hull. "Another trick?" Mia asked, her lattice flaring as she touched it, symbols reacting with a spark that made her flinch. "Maybe," I said, pocketing it. "But we're out of options." The horizon was empty, the sea a vast mocking mirror, reflecting our warped forms, my webbed hands like fins, Mia's translucent skin revealing a golden web that pulsed faster now, as if sensing the endgame. The buildup came with the tide's shift, the lagoon below stirring as the sun climbed. Ripples formed, not random but deliberate, circling the boat that now drifted closer to the cove's mouth, untethered yet unmoving against the current. The hum swelled, carrying voices, our voices this time, not our friends. "Mia, Alex," they called, soft, coaxing. "The boat's ready." "Come home," I froze, heart lurching. It was my voice, my cadence, but layered with the island's guttural undertone, promising rest. Mia's shadow lunged toward the cliff edge, her body following before she caught herself, claws digging into stone. "It's us," she gasped, eyes wide, gloss reflecting my face. "They're using our voices now." The voices grew, overlapping, a chorus of Alexi's and Mia's. My planning tone, her quiet insight, twisted into pleas. "No more running. Safe. Together." The boat rocked, its hull splitting briefly to reveal a glimpse of flesh beneath, pink and gray, veined, pulsing. Before sealing back into wood, "We fire the flare," I said, forcing my voice steady, though it echoed with that alien layer. "Signal the world. End this." Mia nodded, but her hands shook, lattice glowing in sync with the boat's spirals. "What if no one comes? What if it's just them?" The flare gun felt heavy, warm, like the fruit had, its metal yielding slightly under my grip. I aimed skyward, finger on the trigger, but the voices intensified, now a cacophony of us, screaming, laughing, weeping. "Don't." "Stay, love." My shadow detached, wrapping the gun, tendrils cold and slick, urging me to drop it. Mia's shadow joined, their combined weight dragging my arm down. The lagoon erupted, not with the mass but with figures, human-shaped, sculpted from water and flesh, each a mirror of us. My double stood tall, webbing glinting, eyes glossy pools that held no soul. Mia's swayed, translucent skin revealing a lattice identical to hers, symbols pulsing in harmony. They stepped onto the shore, sand hissing, their shadows merging with ours, pulling tighter. "Join," my double said, voice mine but smoother, seductive. No fear, no pain. "We are you," completed. Mia's double extended a hand, claws gleaming. "The boat is us. Sail and be whole." The climax hit as the figures advanced, not rushing but gliding, their forms rippling, flesh parting to reveal bones that shifted like puzzle pieces, then knitting back. The boat split fully now, unfolding into a mass of tendrils, eyes, hands, our friends' faces flickering within, smiling, beckoning. The hum was deafening, a physical force pushing us toward the cliff edge. The boat mast below pulsing in welcome, Mia screamed. Talisman raised, but her lattice betrayed her. Glowing in sympathy, her arm bending backward as if drawn to her double. "Alex, I can't." Her voice was nearly gone, the island's tone dominating. I fired the flare, the recoil jarring my two flexible joints, the red streak arcing high, bursting into a star that hung defiant against the sky. The figures froze, their eyes reflecting the flare's glow, faces dissolving into featureless masks. The boat mass writhed, tendrils lashing. But the hum fractured, discordant, as if the signal disrupted its song. My double lunged, hand grazing my chest, leaving a burn of golden ichor that sank into my skin, accelerating the change. My shadow fully detached, merging with its, pulling me toward the edge. Mia's double wrapped her in tendrils, her lattice flaring, symbols aligning with the mass's veins. "No!" I roared, voice splitting into human and other, and tackled Mia free, her claws raking my side, drawing blood that steamed sweet. The flare faded, but the figures hesitated, their forms destabilizing, flesh bubbling where the talisman had touched Mia's double. We scrambled back, clutching each other, our shadows snapping back, scarred but ours. The boat mast collapsed into the lagoon, sinking with a wail of our voices, the water sealing over, smooth as glass. We lay panting, the flare gun hot in my hand. The plateau silent but for the wind, carrying faint echoes of the hum. The boat was gone, an illusion dissolved, but the island wasn't done. Our changes pulsed, my webbing thicker, Mia's lattice brighter, our shadows restless. The flare might bring rescue, or it might draw more of them. Their next illusion sharper, deadlier. We clung to the rocks, watching the horizon, praying for sails but dreading the tide's return. The island wanted us whole, but whole meant nothing left of us. Have you ever hoped for rescue, only to fear what it might bring? Would you fire the flare or trust the illusion? Chapter 10. To survive, we had to become the monsters. We feared, the horizon burned with the flare's dying ember, a fleeting scream against an indifferent sky. But no sails broke the sea's cruel mirror. Mia and I clung to the plateau's rocks, our bodies no longer wholly ours. Skin peeling in translucent sheets, golden veins pulsing like the island's own arteries, shadows writhing as if eager to abandon us. The boat's illusion had dissolved, revealing the mass's true form, a tide of flesh and bone woven from our friends, Sarah, Ryan, Lucas, Emma, now calling from the depths. Their voices a siren song promising unity, erasure, love. We'd fought the fruit's curse, the mimic's lures, the nest's embrace, but the island was patient, eternal, and we were crumbling. To escape, to live, we faced a truth sharper than any blade. Survival meant embracing the monster within, becoming what we'd fought to destroy. I'm Alex, or the echo of him, my webbed hands clawing at stone, spine bending with unnatural ease, eyes stinging with the gloss that threatened to consume them. Mia's beside me, her lattice of symbols glowing like a map to damnation, her voice a fragile thread of human woven with the island's guttural hymn. The bunker notes, the heart's wounding, the mass's retreat, all led here, to this final stand on a cliff overlooking a sea that whispered our surrender. We'd wounded the island, but it adapted, its hum now a soft, insistent plea in our blood. Join, become, endure. The flare was gone, the boat a lie, and the only path left was through the monster we were becoming. The plateau was a barren altar. Windswept stone scarred with our SOS spirals, now etched deeper by unseen hands glowing faintly like the boat's false hull. The air was sharp, salt and ozone laced with the meaty rot of the mass's residue seeping from the sand below. Our shadows danced, no longer ours. Mine forked into tendrils that quested seaward, Mia's coiling like vines, merging with the rock's carvings. The hum vibrated through us, syncing our pulses, making our altered flesh hum in harmony. "We can't wait for rescue," Mia said, her dual voice trembling, human and other warring for control. Her talisman hung cracked, symbols barely flickering, its power spent. "The island won't let us leave as us." I nodded, my throat clicking wetly, words echoing with an alien undertone. "The notes," they said. The heart wasn't the end. There's a source, deeper, the core of the weave. My webbed fingers traced the boulder's spirals, warm and pulsing, as if the island agreed. Her eyes, nearly fully glossed, reflected my warped face, gold veins framing her pupils like a halo. To reach it, we'd have to change, fully, become them to fight them. The idea was a knife twisting. Become the monster. Let the fruit's curse take root. Let the golden lattice consume us. Wield the island's power against itself. But at what cost? Sarah's resolve, Ryan's fire, Lucas's humor, Emma's warmth, they'd all surrendered, woven into the mass. Would we lose ourselves too? The buildup began with the sea's stir, waves churning below, not from wind but from something rising. The hum swelled, no longer soft but commanding, a chorus of our friends' voices, Sarah's plea, Ryan's laugh, Lucas's puns, Emma's sobs, woven with ours, calling, "Alex, Mia, finish the weave." The lagoon glowed, bioluminescent, revealing shapes in the depths. Not the mass, but fragments. Pseudopods tipped with faces, hands, eyes, all shifting, coalescing into a tide that crept toward the shore. "We move now," I said, voice splitting, the island's tone pushing through. We scrambled down the cliff path, rocks slick with golden slime, the air thickening with that briny meat scent, now laced with the fruit's cloying sweet. My body moved wrong, limbs too fluid, joints bending backward, shadow leading like a scout. Mia glided beside me, her translucence complete. Lattice glowing like a beacon, her steps silent. Predatory. The path led to the village ruins. Huts collapsed into heaps of gray wood, the square a crater where the well had been, now a gaping maw exhaling warm, wet air. Vines hung limp, fruits withered but still dripping sap that sizzled on stone, etching new spirals. The hum was deafening here, a physical weight, vibrating our bones, urging our bodies to unfold, to join. Mia clutched her talisman, its last spark flaring. "The core's below." The true heart, where it began. Her voice was nearly gone, the island's song dominant, but her eyes held a flicker of defiance. We descended into the crater. The well's mouth, now a tunnel of pulsing roots, walls slick with mucus that glowed green, embedded with eyes, small, glossy, blinking in waves. The air was suffocating, like breathing through a wound, tasting of copper and flesh. Our shadows detached fully, slithering ahead, merging with the tunnel's veins, guiding us deeper. My skin peeled back, gold veins exposed, throbbing in sync. Mia's lattice shone, symbols aligning with the walls, forming a map that burned in our minds. A chamber, vast, where the island's will lived. The tunnel opened into a cavern, its ceiling a dome of writhing vines, fruits hanging like chandeliers, pulsing with inner light. The floor was a lake of golden ichor, rippling with submerged forms, human, half-human, molten shapes that rose and sank, faces surfacing. Our friends, their features fluid, smiling, weeping. At the center, the core, a massive, throbbing orb, larger than the heart, its surface a mosaic of flesh and bone, veined gold and black, eyes embedded in its mass, watching, waiting. The mass emerged around it, not one but many, smaller collectives, each a weave of limbs, faces, bones, shifting in ritual dance. Sarah's eyes blinked from one, Ryan's grin from another, all singing, "Join." Complete, eternal. Their tendrils reached, not attacking but caressing, offering union. Mia's lattice flared, her body arching, translucent splitting to reveal the gold beneath. "We have to become," she gasped, human voice fading. Her shadow merged with the core's, tendrils intertwining, pulling her forward. I felt it too, the pull, warm, complete. My body yearning to unfold, to weave. My webbing spread, fingers elongating into claws, spine curving into a crescent, eyes glossing fully, reflecting the core's glow. The fruit's curse sang in my blood, promising no pain, only belonging. But I saw their faces, our friends, not saved but subsumed. Their selves erased in the collective. The climax erupted as I roared. Voice a monstrous blend, and lunged, not at the core, but at Mia, tackling her from the tendril's grasp. Her claws raked my chest, gold-red blood steaming, but I held her, human desperation overriding the island's call. "We fight!" I screamed, echo shattering the hum's harmony. The core pulsed. Enraged, tendrils lashing, Sarah's hand, Ryan's fist, Lucas's grin, Emma's tears, all striking. Not to harm, but to embrace, to pull us in. Mia's talisman sparked one last time, symbols clashing with the core's veins, and I drove it into the orb's center, flesh parting like water, bone cracking like glass. The cavern shook, ichor flooding. Forms in the lake thrashing, their faces dissolving into raw, pulsing masses. The mass screamed, a chorus of our voices fracturing. Human. Alien. Ours, theirs. Tendrils whipping, eyes bursting in wet pops. Mia's lattice cracked, her translucent sealing back to skin, symbols fading. My webbing scarred, spine snapping back with pain, eyes clearing to human brown. The core convulsed, veins bursting, ichor drowning the chamber, washing away the forms, the faces, leaving only husks that floated, empty. We crawled upward, the tunnel collapsing, roots withering, the hum silenced at last. The village above was dust, the island trembling as if grieving. We reached the beach, dawn breaking, the sea calm, a real boat, rusted, human-made, bobbing at the shore, no spirals, no glow. A fishing vessel, distant, answered our flare's ghost, its horn a lifeline. We rowed, bodies scarred but ours, the island shrinking behind us, its hum gone but its echo lingering in our blood. We'd become monsters to fight monsters, embracing the change to break it. But as the mainland loomed, I wondered, had we escaped, or carried the weave with us? Our shadows, still restless, trailed in the water, watching. Have you ever had to become what you hate to survive? What's the cost of staying human?